Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to be talking about an interview that Sarah Palin gave where she justified the expenditure of $4 billion in U.S. taxpayer money being funneled into the pockets of big oil. Now, you should remember that we're in a major economic crisis at the moment, and programs all across the nation are being cut. Many of them, well, most of them, are programs that will benefit the middle class and poor. And even though 81% of Americans want to tax the wealthy, that really isn't on the table at the moment. And in fact, there was a big brouhaha about the fact that the U.S. government was giving federal funds to NPR, the National Public Radio. And that funding has pretty much been cut. And that is to the tune of $430 million. And yet Palin is justifying $4 billion of subsidies going to big oil. An industry that is reaping enormous, disgustingly large profits at the moment. I mean, just obscene amounts of money. Big oil executives are having money shoved into their pockets so fast they can't count it fast enough. And yet conservative politicians, or pundits in the case of Palin, because you should remember that Palin is a failed politician, she didn't even finish her term, conservative pundits are lauding the idea of funneling tax dollars into the pockets of big oil. Now let's for a second take the idea that we take that $4 billion and we put it towards, say, alternative energy research. You know, things like making wind turbines more inexpensive and efficient, wave power, better solar panels, better battery technology, which would make battery-powered vehicles less expensive and more attractive. Safer and simpler designs for nuclear power plants, which already exist. We just need to get them tested and put into place. There are all kinds of alternative energy research that can be done, not to mention liquid fuels like ethanol, which doesn't need a lot of research, but there are new methods of producing it. For example, they're working on some sorghum grass conversions that are very efficient. And I know there's some researchers that are working on creating algae that will produce functional biofuels without having to take anything out of the food cycle, like, for example, most ethanol does. Now, all of these different research projects could benefit from that $4 billion. But it's going into the pockets of big oil instead. Now, there is a sort of extortionist angle to this, where some conservative politicians and pundits are saying that, you know, maybe if the big oil doesn't get these subsidies, prices may rise on gas, on diesel, on home fuel. To me, that sounds like extortion. I can just see this Don sitting in a dimly lit room, kind of looking at a politician going, wouldn't it be a horrible thing if gas prices rose just before an election? I'm just fielding an idea here, you understand. But wouldn't that be bad for your re-election campaign, Senator? How can you justify funneling $4 billion into the pockets of industries that don't deserve it and don't need it? And yet they're not going to fund NPR, which helps spread real information and knowledge to the American people. Oh, I think I just answered my own question. That's why they're not funding NPR, folks. Because it's about spreading knowledge and information. Something the conservatives, the nation over, are opposed to.